You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Really, did he ever work for you?
Well, we did a training course together called, I'm trying to think of the name of that, because I write training courses, and we wrote a training course more specific to the martial arts. I think we called it power training or something like that. I forget now. But that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, he's quite proficient in the martial arts.
Oh, yeah, I know. Tom is something else. He cracks me up. I remember this, I don't know, for some reason, this story that he told me one time, and I thought he was crazy. He said, I feel more calm when I have bullets that are flying by my head than not. And I'm thinking, Jesus, I'm sick. I can't relate,
He is one of the few that I've known that has had that experience and not had ill effects from it.
Amazing. Yeah, it just seems totally normal, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Have you done karate with him? I see that you're a black belt. I assume that you guys have done stuff together?
Oh, yeah. We used to train together.
Okay.
And he was one of my more respected seniors. Whenever I faced him, I always recognized the fact that he was fearless. He just smirked at me and kind of like spit in my face, so to speak, but not really. He was always very, very informative. He's a good teacher.
Yeah, I know that. I see that you were an All-American in swimming and water polo. How soon were you having that kind of success? Because I know it just doesn't come easy.
Well, I was bored on the ocean front, and I started body surfing at the age of 3.
Okay.
I kind of carried over. When I got to high school, I thought I'd play water polo and swim, and that's what I did. I became very successful at it and went into the lifeguarding profession, and then that ended up into a utility stunt career for Baywatch, if you could believe that.
Yeah, I saw that. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that? So you got a gig at Baywatch. Did you have to do any kind of a, what do they call it when you try out for something here, Charlie? Hey, you're not supposed to be forgetting stuff like this. This is our audition. Did you have to audition for it?
Yeah, no, I didn't have to do an audition. What it was is I was rowing in the lifeguard competitions, and David Hasselhoff had a show that was coming up where he needed to be rowed through the surf.
Yeah.
And was winning the national title that year. It was a really successful year. And they thought I could probably get him through the surf without him getting injured. I'll never forget that day. Greg Bonan came up to me, the director, producer of Baywatch, and said, Kevin, you've got to row your butt off today. Because if you don't, that's $6 million riding in the boat with you.
No pressure.
Pressure. First day on the set. And God. I was the one that called the action. And I forget David coming up to me and saying, hey, Kevin, I've seen these boats where they're straight up and down. I said, oh, no problem. This is a low surf. No problem on this. That's not going to happen today. But lo and behold, I say, okay, roll them. And because there was a little swell coming in. First wave, straight up and down.
No kidding.
Straight up and down. And Dave's going, okay, that's enough. That's enough. We're done. And I said, no, we're not. We got to keep rowing. And I actually yelled at him because I was feeling this pressure that I had to get him through this surf.
Yeah.
Otherwise, $6 million is down the drain.
Yeah, no kidding.
So when we got out through the surf after the third wave, I pulled over and I said, okay, now we can stop. And he was shaking. He didn't realize how that was going to feel, but it was easy. When you're in a surf boat, it just kind of goes right through the wave.
No kidding, because this sounds like it's torture for me.
It was torturous for some conditions. I've been hammered in those boats.
Well, let me ask you, how long of a stretch, or how long did it take you to get through those 3 waves, so to speak?
Well, if you could time a set, there's probably 10, 15 seconds between each wave. So you're looking at about 45 to a minute to get through all 3 of them. And
is that all like full out that as far as energy? It's kind of like wrestling, it's not very long, but that 1 minute or 3 minutes is just like, you're going 100%, right?
Correct. And David's a very good athlete. Don't get me wrong. But you have to practice a lot more than what he did prior to this shot to get through that kind of surf in order to time your stroke with the other person. There's only 2 people in the boat. And if he isn't timing his stroke with mine, I'm the only one that's doing any work. he was kind of intimidated by the whole situation, but he did a good job. He did a really good job, and he was really, really kind to me after that.
Yeah. How deep of water are you in?
Oh, it gets deeper as you go out further. It gets, depending on the surf, waves are formed. The size of the waves is determined how deep the water is. And these waves were about 3 feet. So you can figure the water was about maybe 4 feet, 5 feet deep. And it got deeper as it got bigger.
Okay, so to paint a picture for me, because I think I get it, you're actually swimming out into the ocean, further out into the ocean.
That's correct. You're rowing out into the ocean through the waves as they are pounding in.
Gotcha. So what happens when the boat goes up, straight up? I mean, how in the hell can you possibly get out of that? I know you can, but how can you get out of that?
Well, it's a little more intimidating for the front man because he is higher up.
That's true.
So that's where David was. I was in the back pushing us through these things, and he has this sitting position right here on the boat. I don't know if that's a good.
No, it is. Yeah, that's good.
And he's like flying in the air, but the boat, its weight of the boat is about 300 pounds, and then there's our own body weights. It's about 500 pounds together.
Yeah.
And that just up over the wave. The wave has to be very big to ever take it back.
Okay.
If you have kind of momentum hitting that wave, you're going to make it up over.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian power burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
Let me ask you this. Are you like, this is probably a dumbass question, but I ask a lot of them, are you guys actually seat belted in? Because I would think that when you hit that wave like that, what do you hold on to?
Okay, good question. Number one, you're rowing and you're dipping your oars in the water.
Okay.
You have foot straps similar to what you would see on a windsurfer.
Okay.
And your feet are locked into that foot strap. And it's angled so that it's a very comfortable position to be in. And you're pulling through these waves with all your might and pushing with your feet. And if you hit the wave correctly, that is perfectly perpendicular, it will go straight up over the wave and you will just stay balanced. Very important aspect of racing.
You know, that reminds me of, I went to a convention one time out in Colorado, and we decided on our day off to go rafting. And, you know, I've never rafted and none of us that were in there did, but we wanted to use the paddles ourselves, you know, and of course the main guy was in the very back, kind of sounds like what you were. Right. And of course he was saying, you know, it's very important that when we go down or, you know, into these dips, they said it's important to get out that we are paddling together at the same time. Otherwise it's going to be a bad result, right? That's what it kind of sounds like. In this case,
it's exactly what it's like.
So, I mean, and if you're not, this blows my mind because I know you have to have a little, maybe even a lot of practice to do this as a duo or a team. And if a guy in front of you doesn't have that much, you're having to really, in some cases, probably do double the work. That's what it sounds like to me. Oh, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody like that when the guy in front of you doesn't have enough training.
Correct.
I hope you got paid a lot of money.
So it was I don't think we were able to use the footage, but they after the episode was done, after our stunt was done, David was most pleased. He said, that's probably the best footage we've ever had on the show. That was his words. but I never saw the show. I never got to see the actual
Okay.
film that was taken.
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked. I don't know. It could have just been, on the cutting room floor, so to speak.
Yeah. But you worked on it for 7 years. I mean, so were there other scenes that you did besides that one?
That was my first day.
Okay.
So after I went up to the stunt coordinator, a real nice gentleman, a good friend of mine, Greg Barnett. And I asked him, I said, I was into construction, and I said, construction's kind of slow right now. I was wondering if you could get me into this on a permanent basis. And he said, yes, I can. So we went through the process and got 3 SAG vouchers and got Taft-Hartley into the SAG union. And then I ended up working for Baywatch on quite a consistent way. I got to, I was with them for almost 9 years. I had 7 vested years. And I worked with every single one of those actors and actresses. It was a really great career. I had a great time. I get a small pension from them now, and it's one of my favorite things I've done in my life.
Isn't that something, how that, turned out to be something that you were just doing for pure, well, I mean, you were an athlete and it turned into that? That's quite a surprise in your life, I would think, isn't it?
It was. And I can't tell you how many jealous lifeguards there were.
Oh, yeah. I can understand that. How long was your season when you were shooting? Was it like a few months, half a year?
They shot year round. They tried to get, I think they had like 27 episodes in a can after a year. They had a real successful run. They had one of the longest running syndicated shows that I understand. I think they had 17 seasons.
Wow.
Year round. I remember being in the water with them sometimes when the water was very cold, and I had to go out with Speedos on and swim in icy cold water when everybody on the set had mucklucks and down jackets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was out there swimming, making it look like it was still summer.
Yeah. So were you shooting all this on the West Coast, like in Malibu or one of these places?
Leo Carrillo is a very popular spot to shoot. We shot a lot in Long Beach. We shot a lot right at Will Rogers State Beach, right there in Malibu. Just in Malibu, and a lot in Malibu. A lot of Paradise Cove.
Oh yeah, I know where that is. Yeah.
We did a lot of shooting all around, up and down the coast.
Okay, so I know that you did this thing with Dave Hasselhoff, but what other kind of stunts were you doing? In the 7 years that sort of highlights, would you say, in your career?
Well, I got to work on other shows as a spinoff from this. I did a 90210. I did Heart to Heart. I actually had a sword fight with Robert Wagner, if you can believe that.
Yeah, wow.
My friend Greg Barnett was extremely helpful, and he got me into a whole bunch of things, and I really had a short but really fun career.
Nice. Hey, okay, the one thing that comes to my mind is, did you ever have to go save Pamela Anderson?
Yes. Actually, she saved me. I drowned on that show probably 15 times.
Really?
I was the water
on
safety
purpose?
officer.
On purpose?
Yeah. I actually, Pamela Anderson rescued me once. Alexandra Paul rescued me once.
No, so are you being serious right now?
Yes, I am.
Because I could see where you could fake that to have Pamela Anderson try to save you, but seriously, you were being saved by them?
Yes.
Well, how did that happen? You're the master diver, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me about that.
Most of the rescues were done in 3 feet of water.
Oh, okay.
Right?
All right.
Like it's very deep. One of the scenes, for instance, I was a Santa Claus being towed behind I was parasailing behind a boat, and I fell into the water with gifts and a Santa Claus suit on and all this stuff. And I got tangled up in the shrouds, and to the rescue comes Pamela Anderson and David Hasselhoff, and they untangled me and saved my life. It's a really...
okay. See, I'm getting mixed up. I thought this was legit. This was part of the show.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. It takes a while for me to catch on.
No, it doesn't. You're very bright man.
Okay, so that sounds like you had a really interesting... My big claim to fame is I got a chance to do an audition for The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner. I used to train him. And,
Yes.
he gave me back then I was pretty big and I got a shot to go do an audition, like maybe, I don't know, 10 words. And I choked. It was awful. I never wanted to go do that again ever. And I still don't. I had a different respect for actors when they make things look authentic. And anyway, so that was my claim to fame is I went there for bodyguard and I choked and I never went back again. So there you go. You had a much better career than I did.
You should have. You would have been good.
Okay, so I see that you were a master diver. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how you got into that?
Well, when I was doing the Baywatch thing, I thought I got injured. I had a knee surgery. And I thought, well, I'll take this opportunity and get myself some better credentials so that I'm more marketable in that business. So I took a course in PADI. There's a Pacific Divers Incorporated. I'm not sure what it stands for, but it's PADI. And they had a program where you could go in and take your advanced divers and spin it into a master diver certificate as well as a rescue diver certificate. It was a course given by a friend of mine who is also a lifeguard in Long Beach, Dave Tedesco. And I took that course and got those credentials and made myself more marketable. And then after that, I was on the set, and one day they had somebody get in a hard hat. They needed somebody to get in a hard hat, and I had no experience. This is probably one of the most challenging things I ever did as a stuntman, and that was to get into a hard hat and never have been in one before. And getting into one of those is a claustrophobic experience, I can tell you.
Tell us a little bit about what that means. I'm thinking the hard hat's a hat that you put on your head.
For construction?
Hard hat is the deep diver plate, the helmet,
yes,
and the weight boots and big belt.
Yeah.
Like 2 pounds of ballast. And my job was to go out there and get equal balanced or be my ballast had to be just perfect so I could float in 76 feet of water.
Oh God.
And the way you do that, there's a valve on the helmet that releases a constant oxygen feed that gives you your oxygen inside the thing. So you have to create the perfect balance to stay afloat. If you don't, you blow up like the Michelin Man and you pop the whole suit.
Oh God.
And you can die.
So that's if you get too much oxygen. Is that right?
No, it's just, if you get too much airflow and not enough bleed, you blow up like the Michelin. And it happened. I actually, and the procedure was to turn off the valve and push the bleeder valve, which is right there by your chin, and equalize the pressure again and turn the valve back on. So you were just right at that ballast point. And the shot was me holding up my thumb saying everything is cool. When in actuality, the 3 divers that were qualified and certified hard hat divers on board, none of them told me about the crotch strap needs to be cinched up. So basically what was happening, I was in that thing with 150 pounds of ballast and I was being hung in that bell. It was horrible. And I got out and I did the shot and I had bruises on both my jaws right here.
Yeah.
And I came out and I said, you guys forgot to tell me one thing. And they said, what's that? The crotch strap has to be really tight. And they all 3 busted out laughing. They were laughing because they were betting that I wasn't going to make it. They thought that for sure. They say 1 in 10 guys in the Navy can do this because the claustrophobic feeling.
Oh God.
And they thought it was dangerous for me to have done it. And it probably was, but somehow I made it.
So when you're learning how to do something like this, seriously, I mean, because of what happened to you, did you have to go through any kind of training to be able to deal with panics or, being in those situations and losing it because you couldn't maintain control?
If there was any training for that, I would have taken it. But no, I had to just keep my mind set. And I think martial arts had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
You just knew what you had to do. And Mr. Anderson, the creator of a lot of Scuba Pro equipment, who owned the suit, was very informative. He told me how to handle the situation if it occurred. And just turning off the valve and bleeding it and getting that equal ballast again was the technique. And I wasn't about to panic because it was a very dangerous thing to be doing first time out.
Oh,
70 water.
That's crazy. I mean, in my mind, that's insane. I would never do that. I want to talk a little bit more about your diving, but I want to go back to you when you were lifeguarding. And in how many years did you lifeguard?
Probably 35.
35 years. And
Summer.
And how many people would you say that you pulled out of the water that saved their life?
That's a good question. I would say, well, let me put it this way. One day I had 6 rescues. And Long Beach is a little different than the ocean. The ocean, you're dealing with riptides and things like that put people in danger. Long Beach is mostly still water. There's a lot of flat water in Long Beach. You've got that breakwater out there that kind of knocks down the waves. So it's a little more tedious. If someone is going to drown in that situation, they just disappear. And as a result, it's important for the lifeguard to be constantly scanning and knowing exactly who's in front and who is a strong swimmer, who's not. That's kind of what I did all the time. And I think, to answer your question, I was probably up there around 55 people that I actually, if I was not there, they would have died. That's the feeling I get.
Yeah. And then
I had many other experiences where I wasn't even on duty. And because you are so trained to see that, every time I go to the beach, my eyes start scanning just naturally.
I would bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and what's besides getting caught in the, because I've gotten caught a couple of times in that current that pulls you back and down. What is the main or number one reason you think that people actually get in trouble out in the water? Is it because they're drunk? What is it?
A lot of it, if they're drinking, usually that is kind of the culprit, but mostly fear. If people get caught in a rip, as you're taught in school, everybody knows to swim to the side.
Yeah.
And that out, because you know what causes a rip is the constant inflow of water, waves. They have to figure out a way to get back out. So it creates kind of a river going back out to sea. And an inexperienced swimmer will sometimes get caught in that current and take them too deep, and it makes them get fearful. And the answer to that is just swim to the side. And as you become more experienced, you use those as a way to get out quicker.
Yeah.
If you're in a or something like that.
You know, I don't know if this is a good correlation, but when I was out of college, I bounced for about 2 years in nightclubs. And the people that were the hardest to deal with were the people that were drinking. And, how did you handle somebody that was, I mean, did they all of a sudden get sober when they were in all of a sudden you're in a life-threatening situation? Or are they worse? Are they harder to deal with sort of than the average person who's not drinking, or does that matter at all?
Well, if they're in the water and they are intoxicated and they are in danger, they become sober to a point.
Okay.
They know that their life is now in jeopardy. You hand them a can buoy, and that's why the lifeguards carry those can buoys. Instead of giving them your body, you hand them a floatable object, and they grab onto that thing for dear life. And in training, some people have experienced where the victim will actually start crawling up the rope to get to the lifeguard to grab onto him. And we simply are trained to release the strap and let them go back to the floatable object that we handed them to begin with.
So when you let that go, are you letting that completely go, or is it just letting it go out to like an extension? Or are you just letting them go?
It's an extension. That rope that attaches the lifeguard to the buoy is about 6 to 8 feet long.
Okay.
You're pulling them in, they can potentially will crawl up that rope. I've never experienced it, but we were trained how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Kind of like police brutality, I think. You're not out there to drown for them.
Right.
You're out to save them. They got themselves in the position. You're going to get them out, but if they're going to kill you, no, that's not going to happen.
You're going to go home. not them in that case, right?
That's how they
Bluntly said, but that's true. You know, I think that would be just a real interesting situation to be in. I would think that every life save is pretty much they're unique in themselves, I would imagine.
And one of the scariest ones that I've had were drop-offs, where one day we had a rainy day and all of a sudden an intercity bus comes in with a bunch of non-swimmers.
Oh.
And they go up the bay. And all of a sudden there's 2 people, 3 people, one person just screaming for help, and 2 kids are holding onto somebody's legs and pulling her down.
Oh.
So we all pull them up out, and they're sinking like rocks if we're not there. And that was actually one of the rescues that I had, and it was very, very important to have been on that one.
One more question before we move on to your diving again. What is the stat on lifeguards losing their life doing their work?
Very rare, very rare. I don't think I've ever. I've heard of it in a training program. One of my competitors in dory racing, he went to a river rafting or a river rescue program, and he got into a bad situation and got stuck in the river, got his leg caught and could not come up. And he ended up dying on the training program.
Oh, God.
Very serious.
Awful.
That's about the time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah. So would you ever go back and do it again? If you could do it over again, would you go down that road and be a lifeguard?
You know, if I had the energy and the physical capability after all the stunts that you and I have done, do you think, I think we're pretty much over that phase of life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would never go back and bounce again. You know, I was doing it in the moment. And, you know, if it wasn't for all the girls that we, you know, guys that are bouncers, you pick up all the girls. They love the bouncers for obvious reasons. But you know what? It was scary shit sometimes, Kevin. And back then, those days, I was working for $4 an hour, minimum wage, you know? And to take on some of these people that were drunk and crazy and they wanted to kill you sometimes. It's like, what the hell was I thinking? But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it at the time, but I'd never do it again.
That's right.
You know,
wisdom.
Okay, so let's move on to your diving. Okay, after you became a diver, a master diver, what have you done? And have you been diving? Have you dived like all over the world? And are there places that you enjoyed the most?
I did a couple. Most of it was on sets. I was always the water safety guy. So if there was any need to go underwater, I was the guy that was down there fiddling around. And if there was any other divers going down there, I was always standing by in the lurks there to protect them in case something went down that wasn't. The studios are very cautious about that. If they don't have that, their liability just goes skyrocketing.
I would imagine.
Water is really important. But my diving experience, I've dove in Florida several times. I've dove Hawaii many times, but it was on a shoot in Hawaii. I've dove all over Catalina. I mean, I know every cave and nook and cranny in Catalina.
And is this with the tank on your back the whole time, or have you ever done it with just like a tube?
A lot of it was, the hook line they call it. Yeah, I did a lot of that too. There was many times in situations where a hook line was important because you had to be away from it so you could just set it aside and not have to strip your tank off your back.
Yeah. So do you still dive today?
Yes, I have all my gear. I have a boat, and I'll go over to Catalina and dive to this day. I don't do anything risky. I never go over 60 feet deep, and I don't stay out very long, and I'll do maybe 1 or 2 dives a day at most.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say you don't do anything risky, but yet you're 60 feet deep. I think that 6 feet deep is risky for me, and you're going down 60 feet. I guess it's all relative, you know. Yeah. Have you ever gotten into any trouble down there where you've, bonked or anything like that?
Well, I had one of my dive buddies, actually Dave Tedesco, that gave me my certification in master diving. He wanted to go down so deep, he wanted to experience narcosis.
Oh, God.
oxygen narcosis, when you get down there, you start feeling lightheaded. And I said, nah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And besides, by the time we got to that thermocline where that depth where that kind of thing can happen, it got so cold, it was miserable. So I just told him, I said, I'm too cold, I'm going up.
Yeah.
And I went back up because nitrogen narcosis is kind of like getting drunk.
Yeah.
And you feel that.
So do you always dive with somebody, or have you done stuff where you just go out on your own?
That's a cardinal rule if you're doing scuba diving. You can snorkel alone without too much danger at all. It's always wise to dive with a partner. And that's the number one rule of the road when you're scuba diving, is always have a partner and always have him in sight.
Yeah. And I would think that there's people out there that are doing it on their own.
That's right.
You know,
there is.
Yeah. And when you snorkel, how far down do you typically go?
Well, some people can go very deep. I had a capability of going down maybe 60, 70 feet tops. But I worked with a person on Baywatch. One of the episodes was devoted to this one gal. Her name was Megan. And she held the men's and the women's record for the deepest free dive in America. She held that record, 188 feet, unassisted.
This is not with a tank?
Without a tank.
What the hell? How do you train for that?
Well, they learn to hold their breath for a really long time.
Yeah, what does that mean exactly, Kevin? What's a really long time?
5 minutes.
Jesus.
You could hold her breath for 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Charlie, can you hold your breath for 5 minutes?
You remember when we were doing those breathing exercises?
Yeah.
10 seconds.
Yeah, unbelievable. Of course you have to train for that, right?
Yes, they did. And they would have, while they were training, they'd have little mishaps where they would get what is called shallow water blackout. If they wanted to push themselves, they were constantly pushing their lungs to take in this oxygen and keep it. They'd saturate their lungs with pure oxygen.
Yeah.
And then they'd do this. They'd hyperventilate and then do this long holding of the breath. But sometimes it's just too long and they will pass out and they have to be revived. As a matter of fact, Megan, that very person, ended up passing away trying to break her own record.
Is that right?
Came up and had shallow water blackout and they couldn't revive her.
Oh, God.
So it's a sport. That free diving competition is all.
I think I saw something like that on Netflix or something, and it seemed like this guy that was doing it, whoever did it, he ended up having a stroke or something. I don't know if it was down in the water. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have seen many situations where what you're about to say have happened. Yes, I have. And it's unfortunate, but it's part of the danger of competing in that type of endeavor.
You know something, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that a part of the attraction is because it is dangerous.
Correct.
Isn't that right? And you I don't know if you really think about, this could really happen to me, because maybe that thought would keep you from doing that to begin with. I mean, it has to sit in the back of your mind somewhere, but yet you still do that, right?
That's right. As a matter of fact, the same group of people where Megan, her boyfriend, was also a deep diver, and he was very accomplished at it as well. Could hold his breath for 5 minutes. I'll never forget a shoot they were doing for a free dive. David Chokachi was going to go down and win the deep dive contest. And this guy was doubling it. He was going down. I'll never forget his demeanor when he was going down. I was down at about 80 feet, just waiting for something to happen. I had my tank on and everything. This guy was so relaxed as he was paddling down with his fins, he ran right into the ground.
Really?
And just knocked him a little silly. And I went over to Tech, and he turned to me and goes, "Everything's okay, no problem." He started going back up.
Unbelievable.
And God, that's a talented person that can take something like that and just turn it into something productive.
No kidding. How deep is the ocean? I've never even known that answer.
There's abyssals that are a mile down. It's deep out there. It gets really deep. I think the Mariana Trench goes down 5-6 miles.
Is that right? And how deep? Who's dived the deepest, and how far is that in tanks?
You know, I don't. I'm trying to think. I probably knew this at one time, but right now it's escaping me. I'm imagining there's different combinations of tanks that they give you, helium and oxygen, and you can go down much deeper in certain circumstances. But they have to come back up and get into a decompression chamber if they go down for over a certain time. I always said 60 feet tops. You can be at 60 feet for 60 minutes, and then you have to return. Otherwise, you risk getting what is called the bends.
Yeah,
And then
heard that.
it's into your blood system, and they start to expand as you come up. And the only way to prevent it is to keep yourself at intervals on the way up so that the nitrogen bubbles can neutralize in your bloodstream. And then when you finally get to the top, you're okay.
So you said 60 feet for 1 hour. Is that right? 60 minutes.
That's the recreation dive.
Okay.
Schedule.
Kind of the default depth is around 60 feet.
For 60.
Let's take a quick pause to tell you about something you are definitely going to want.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian Power Burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
Okay, so in all these dives and all the times that you've been in the ocean like that, have you ever had to deal with some angry fish or whatever?
Well, I was snorkeling one time down in Mulahay, and we were noticing all this bait fish coming flying by at high speed. I thought that's interesting. And then all this yellowtail. Yellowtail's, a pretty good sized fish. And then I look off the side and I see 5 makos, 6-foot makos that were chasing these fish.
Oh,
and water, and I did not like it. So we backed out. We just kept our eyes on the sharks and backed out. Sharks are not as aggressive as you would think.
Really?
Actually, yeah, they're not. They're as afraid of you as you are of them most of the time. And one of the I hate to refer to this group again, but the 3 people that were the deep sea divers, one of them, his name was, he defected from Cuba, and he came over, and his talent and his claim to fame was to ride the dorsal fin of dangerous sharks. And he had the key. He knew the combination. All you had to do is get that shark interested in a piece of bait. Once their attention was there, you could jump on the dorsal fin of that shark and ride it. And he did it with bull sharks, which are considered one of the more dangerous sharks in the sea.
Oh my God.
They have been responsible for a lot of deaths and people getting eaten. He did it with bull sharks.
No kidding.
He do it with a great white, but I don't think he ever got to that point.
That's unbelievable.
Well, I know that. I don't know if you saw it. I saw a picture of a woman on a super large great white in Hawaii. The shark was pregnant and it had just feasted, and she was riding the dorsal of this great white that looked bigger than Jaws.
Oh my goodness.
And there is a photo of it. You can look it up in Google, I'm sure, and see it. It's just incredible. It's something I would never.
Humans are pretty damn amazing when you think about it. I mean, you got to be half crazy to do that, I would guess, but that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so jealous. Part of me is, anyway.
Me too.
You know,
I always, when I was talking to that individual that wanted to ride the great white, I said, I respect you a lot, and I really want you around. So please reconsider that one.
No kidding. So what do you do these days with yourself? I mean, I would think, I don't know. I'm 66 years of age here in about another 9 days. And, I keep myself busy still as much as I want to be, which is what I'm in a very cool place right now. But because I'm doing stuff that I just rather do. And I get away from the shit that I don't want to have anything to do with. Yeah. So I'm just saying this as an observation, not a famous last word. But what do you do to keep yourself busy and to keep yourself enthused about life? Because I don't know how old you are, and I don't need to know. But I'm just curious.
Well, let me put it this way: you and I are right there together.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. What I do is, my life has been a gamut of things. Stunts and doing I was a water skier. I did everything. I'm a pilot. I like to do everything I can possibly do in this one life because I believe you only live once. You might as well do everything you want to do, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah.
And I keep myself busy. Right now, I'm trying to get my medical back. I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And getting your medical to fly an airplane becomes very difficult when you have that on your resume.
Yeah.
So I'm in the process of getting that taken care of right now, and I'm just looking forward. I just spoke to the FAA today, and hopefully I'll get that. But I just keep going.
Yeah.
I just don't stop. I love this life. It's been a blast so far, and I want to go out swinging.
Well, you know what? I do. I get what you're saying, and I kind of the motto that I have is like, it's not where you start, it's how you finish. And, I'm in this section of my life where I'm just, I feel like I'm really living that motto. And I don't know about you, Kevin, but one of the things that I do as a marker when I'm doing stuff is I'm always sort of using the measure of how much passion that I have for what I'm doing. And if I have that, it seems like everything else doesn't matter.
Yep. I'll tell you what you're doing right now impresses me. I think what you do with these podcasts is extraordinary.
Well, I tell you something. It's one of those things that was a challenge for me because just like bodybuilding, what I said about certain things just being attractive. Bodybuilding was so hard. I was attracted to that because I like challenges like that. I like it when it's like most people can't do it. And doing a podcast, it's more than meets the eye. I have to tell you, it's a pretty good challenge. And I've done 160 of these. And I can tell you, I'm just starting to get where I feel like I'm getting it, but most importantly, Kevin, I'm having a damn good time.
Are you in your home, may I ask?
No, I'm in one of my businesses. Okay. So I do one here. This is called the Serious Growth Podcast. And so we do this here. I wrote a bunch of books and this, a lot of the stuff that we bring on. I bring on guys or people that are just, I think they're from all walks of life. And I try to correlate to some degree how bodybuilding and taking care of your body and nutrition, it sort of correlates with the stuff that you do as a diver, for example. Right. There's a lot of similarities. And so there's that. And then I have another podcast. It's called Fishbowl. And that one is, we talk about, there's nothing off the table. I mean, anything goes. And that's a whole different dynamic. So it's fun. It's just two different things that I do that I'm having more and more fun all the time. It's almost sinful. All right.
I'm honored to be here and talking to you. It's been a real joy.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm so happy that I got to talk to you. I was hoping that we could get on today because your resume just seems so fascinating, and it is. You've lived a very interesting life, and I applaud you for that. And I like your mentality because it's kind of mindset because it's kind of like the one that I have. We're not done yet.
Okay, that's good. I'm fine.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you again for coming on. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
All right, Kevin, you take care.
All right, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.